Welcome to the Short-Term Rental Playmaker Podcast, where we break down what it really takes to win in short-term rentals in today's market. From insider tips and emerging trends to real conversations with top playmakers in the space, this show gives you the tools, strategies, and mindset to build and scale a successful short-term rental business. Now, here's your host, Joe Roney.
Today's episode is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents, the short-term rental real estate experts helping investors find profitable vacation rental properties nationwide. If you're serious about scaling your STR portfolio, Savvy STR Agents should be your first call.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Playmaker Podcast. I am super honored to have a friend, colleague, and one of the best in the business, Harshad Lalan. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Joe. Thank you for having me. Good to see you again.
It's really crazy how, our relationship has kind of changed over the past year. It was actually just a little bit over a year ago that we had our first conversation, and you were co-hosting a couple of properties in Panama City Beach for a great ownership group, and had kind of, shifted. You were in a lot of different markets and it didn't work for where you were, and you actually helped and moved them over to me.
Yeah, I think, I look back at that and I just, feel like there was such a good transition because we both were thinking out for the owners. And Panama City Beach was an area that did not have a lot of rentals. You were growing there. And I think I heard of you through Tyler and Savvy. You're part of that community, I guess, at the time. And I was like, okay, Joe's growing in the area. I can't think of someone better to transition these properties to, and you were wonderful to work with on the transition. I think the owners are very happy with. So, and I think you did a better job in 2025 than I did for them in 2024 in terms of the overall revenue number, and that was the end goal. So that's been fantastic.
Yeah, and I can't say I did a better job, but you obviously took it at a tough time right in the middle of spring break, going into peak season, and I had a little bit of a little bit more time to jump into it and get things set. But it was a great transition, and obviously our relationship has evolved since then. We've been skiing and snowboarding together in Asheville. We've been skiing and snowboarding together in Montana. And, here we are. And I think I get to, when this airs, I will have just been with you in Asheville again. We get to be together
That's
again
right.
here in a couple of weeks. So,
yeah, looking forward to the Savvy Summit, and then looking forward to our book that would have been released by the time this podcast comes out. So that's very exciting.
We just had our book released a couple days ago. So most of you guys already know about this, but if you don't know who Harshad is, I'm going to have him explain who he is really quickly, because everybody knows that you are Ishita's husband, but they don't really know how much, because, if you look at it, she's been the face, right? She's been the face of your business over the past couple of years. And now I've seen you really jumping in there, and I've seen you on multiple podcasts, and I'm seeing you get out there to really talk about what you do, because what you're doing on your part of that business that you guys do together is really awesome.
Yeah, no, and I think that's definitely an element of working together as a couple that we can get into that. And every couple have different dynamics. For me, my background, just to kind of introduce people, like I came here to US as an engineer. My dream was to become an astronaut and work for NASA. That's what I came here for. And I spent the early part of my life studying for it, for going through bachelor's, going through master's, and then working in a top aerospace firm for almost 10 years as a systems engineer. So that was my identity for the most part. And I'm also an immigrant here. So that were certain restrictions in terms of what I can or cannot do outside of my work. Mm-hmm. So when me and Ishita got married and we kind of went on our own, journey of like becoming financially free, started this short-term rental journey, it was one of those very intentional decisions for me to just be in the background for multiple reasons. One, I had to not make it very evident to my current employer that I was doing things outside of it. The second part of it was just alignment as couple. I feel like, as you start working together as couples, you figure out your strengths. You figure out who's good in what areas. And we hear so many of these couples that get into real estate, it gets too much, it starts causing issues. And I always say that people always say you communicate better, and that solves the issue. For me, absolutely, there's no lack of communication that can resolve it, but just being very clear in the areas where your ownership is and being very clear about that division, that just made our journey of going through this real estate very, very simple and straightforward. And we kind of naturally fit into those roles. As an engineering background, I had that analytical skill set. I liked organizing. I liked doing all the back end things from taxes, the overall strategy of assets, where we are buying. So my role in our relationship when we started our investment journey was finding out where to go invest, running the numbers, doing the underwriting on it, reaching out and setting up the whole system until the point we got to the point where like, okay, now it's time for design. Then Ishita takes that on and goes forward with it. So that's kind of how that journey started. Today, as we have grown our portfolio, we have short-term rentals, we have hotels, we do design business, we have co-hosting. The underlying concept has remained the same. Just being very, very intentional about who is doing what, who owns what piece of it, and let's move the boat forward and not and help each other out and push forward where it makes sense.
I mean, it's impressive. I mean, everyone knows you as living in Asheville. A lot of people do, because that's where a lot of the Ishita designs have come, and that's where some of the really great spaces. But you guys have created great spaces all over, and your first one was in Iowa, right?
Yeah. We started a journey. That's where my work life, my work was, my W-2 was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And this is back in 2019. It was just before the boom of short-term rentals, or maybe just about. Our journey actually started by house hacking, and we did multifamily for a little bit. We just trying to figure out what is the right real estate vehicle that we enjoy. Obviously, with Ishita's creative side, short-term rental was very obvious. But 2019 is when we started in Iowa. At the time, we did not have all these Facebook groups. We did not have as much coaching that's out there. There was some of it, but it was more of like, let's go, let's just try it. Let's just try, see what happens. And when you're that young in your journey as a couple, your risk tolerance is pretty high. You may not have a lot of resources, but you're willing to put in the work and the effort. And that's kind of what it was. It was bootstrapping out. Our first rental was a partnership with a landlord where he's like, you give us your space, we will furnish it, and that's all we had. We put like $20,000 worth of furniture on credit cards to furnish that first short-term rental, and worrying about like if you're going to make the payments on that or not. And that's all we could afford. We did everything on our own, from like ordering, opening boxes, setting it up. Didn't know any of it. It was just like all learning on YouTube, whatever the best we can, and just hoping people come to stay in a small town in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm like, who in the world would even come there? But it worked. It was going pretty well. So it just kind of gave us the boost.
Yeah. And here, 5 years later, did you imagine in 2019, 2020 that in 5 years you would be closing on 4 boutique hotels in 1 year?
I did not, Joe. I don't think. I think, there's a lot that went in terms of, I always resonate with, you have to be ready in terms of when the opportunity comes. So it's part opportunities when they come to you, and then you have to be ready to grasp them when they come to you. And then you combine that, with the environment, with the people you surround yourself with. So being in the right masterminds, being surrounded by a lot of people in the space that are talking and doing and taking actions on a daily basis. So all these things help. And I'm sure we have made a ton of mistakes along the way, and just being able to learn from those and then be able to learn from other people's mistakes and share those. So yeah, I do definitely feel pretty blessed. Definitely wasn't the intention to get into 4 hotels at the same time. Yeah. That does feel overwhelming at times. It's a lot to try to keep up. But that was also intentional in the sense of like, okay, it's just me and Ishita, and we have 2 dogs. We don't have a lot of other responsibilities in terms of kids. And when we looked at our lifestyle, we felt like we could dedicate enough time for each of these projects. Especially today when we have a decent amount of team that supports us. So it felt, okay, we could take this on. Definitely challenging. Definitely, it was scary, but felt right.
I think that was one of the things that I really wanted to kind of discuss is how you used your co-hosting business to grow your team without having to that's kind of how you funded it, right? I mean, that's kind of how you kind of explained it is you kind of used your co-hosting business to fund building your team. How many people are on your team and how did that work?
Yeah, so to give a bit of a context there, like when we got started out, initially we just had a bunch of our own portfolio of properties. I think we got to like 6 or 7 short-term rentals that me and Ishita just owned ourselves or with partners, and that is what our portfolio looked like. And then, what was happening is the design side of business, Ishita's designs was picking up, and then that made sense for her to be fully focused on the design business. So initially, me and Ishita used to share responsibilities in terms of, and even the short-term rental operations, we used to share responsibilities.
Yeah.
Then we decided Ishita is just going to focus on design. So I took all of that on my own. So I went from where me and Ishita used to split responsibilities to like taking care of everything on the short-term rental operation side on my own. And this was also happening when I still had a W-2 job at the time. So from the very get-go, I was very much about setting up the system. Then automation, even at the time, we did not have HostBuddy AI and all the automations we have today. It was just still very manual. So I was intentional about being very systematic about my tech stack, about how I set up the automations in those things as well. Then a time came is then, we were getting clients that were coming to us for design. There were other friends that were coming to us like, would you manage for us? Would you take care of this? And it just felt natural for me to say, look, I'm getting to the point where we have enough of these properties. It's taking too much of my time. I need support.
Yep.
And the intention in the beginning was, let me just get enough co-hosting clients that pays for me to hire a team of virtual assistants that just wins me back my time and it helps me support our portfolio. That was the intention. The intention was never about, let's go start a co-hosting business.
Yep.
It was just to alleviate what we were already doing on a portfolio, win our time back. The one thing I think was helpful for me when people talk about this transition, and we see a lot of this in our Facebook groups when we are talking about like, hey, I'm ready to hire my first VA, I'm ready to transition. When's the right time to transition? And there's no like right answer really. But what worked very well for me is that when that time came for me to transition, I went in and hired a team rather than hiring just one single virtual assistant. I hired an operations manager first. And then I hired had like 3 another virtual assistants underneath that, and I hired all of them at the same time. And the reason for that was I wanted to set up the system and train the operations manager, and I wanted the operations manager to then train the 3 VAs underneath her. And by doing that, what allowed is that operation manager kept getting trained, not only from what I was passing on to her, but as she was training the people underneath her, she was getting better and better at it. And it saved me time from having to train every one of them individually.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of work in the beginning, but it just set us up from the very get-go. I remember that transition, the first 2 or 3 months, whenever you do hire a VA, 2 things is just have a very good plan. This is 1 week, what I'm expecting within a week. This is what I'm expecting within 30 days. This is what I'm expecting within 90 days. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of hand holding. So I started using Notion for managing all of it. So I set up the pages, I set up the structure, and it was like, I'm going to do this once. Then you're going to show me how you're going to do this. And then the third time you're going to do it on your own. So that's what we did for every single process, every single step.
Wow.
And then that first 3 months, I remember, was like a lot of time that was spent on managing and training that team.
Yep.
Or managing and training that operations manager. And then she just took on from that. You're building that rapport, you're building that partnership right from that get-go. And that helped because setting that up in that way, even though at the time I maybe only had like 12 properties, the team was set up that they could handle 30, 35 properties with that stack, essentially. So what happened is once we had those systems in place, it became easy to go from those 12 properties to 30 properties. It was just a matter of getting the leads, getting them onboarded, and then you're focused on just updating your systems, checking on the quality, checking on like how can we be more efficient,
Yeah.
And I just kept revenue management with myself. That was the last thing. I finally gave that up. I think like 3 months ago. That was the last piece I couldn't give up.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I mean, I'd say the biggest mistake I see people make all the time, and I've made a mistake, is they hire a virtual assistant and they don't give any time to the training and teaching and coaching. And you basically just said you hired your operations manager from day one, and you spent 3 months holding his hand to be able to get to where you needed. So, I mean, that's a testament of dedication to be able to get it right, and you knew exactly what you want to get out of that.
We made mistakes along the way, but I think what happens is that there is a lot of good resources out there today in terms of, and there are dedicated short-term rental VAs that come with a lot of experience. Some of them have worked with Airbnbs before. Some of them have worked with other property management companies before. So the pool of good talent today is a lot better than even from a couple of years ago. So that hiring process becomes really important in terms of what you're looking for. Along with looking for certain qualifications, I always just do a test. There's certain very specific tests that I have them do, just a way to narrow down your hiring pool, and that's really worked well for us.
Yeah, that's great. So what does your team look like today? How many virtual assistants? And then also, I know on the design side, because even though it may be Ishita's, it's still you guys do it together, and you have a team on that side as well. So how many total employees are working for you guys now?
On the co-hosting side of things, I believe it's a team of 5, and then on the design side, that's really, really grown. We are like 20 plus people, 20 plus designers, junior designers, senior designers, project managers on the design side. And all of that has really just grown within the last year and a half. We only had like 4 people supporting Ishita only a year and a half ago. So last year is when we have really grown that design side of team to what it is. And the intention always was that co-hosting it's interesting because I've had that team for almost 2 years now. It's the same structure we have had.
Yeah.
And it's supported us until now. But we have at this very interesting point where what brought us to 30, 35 properties is not going to work to get us to the 60, to get us to the 70. So we are going through an entire restructuring of our setup on the co-hosting side. But design side was completely built. So yes, overall, between everyone we have on the design side and everyone we have on the co-hosting side, it's like you're running 2 different companies side by side.
Yeah.
My job on the design side is all on the back end for the most part to support if I can keep Ishita, just have her do the design and not do anything else. That's my goal.
Yes.
And not saying that I'm always the best in terms of being the execution partner, but I'm trying to do my best to support in that particular role. And then co-hosting is just how do I keep this so I keep my time away from the day-to-day, but focus on making it better, providing a better guest experience, looking at different ways to co-host that's above and beyond what we have normally see people do.
Yeah.
One of the examples is that we are hiring guest concierge VAs that all they will be doing is just concierge support. This is beyond just guest communication anymore. So this is like when because a lot of our portfolio today is large properties, very high ADRs, and our guest avatar, they require a lot of touch points. And because of that, it's a matter of just having that, not only just messages and communication, it's about building that relationship with that guest. So we're getting someone, the main responsibility will be establishing that relationship with them and become a concierge beyond anything that we do today in terms of messaging, communication, so on and so forth.
Wow. I mean, you're at 30 plus properties, goal to potentially get to 60 plus. Is that a 1-year goal that you're looking to try to double this year, or is that a slow process on how you want to get there?
From a goal perspective, I think we said we want to double this year, but I think this Q1 for us it's a bit of a step back. I'm taking a step back to relook at my systems, relook at how we have set everything up, and hopefully we can now jump to 60. But I think when you get to this particular point in a business, sometimes you have enough case studies that you could use to gain new clients if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I just want to be able to offer a better product. I feel like Ishita Interiors is what we normally say. This is a cream, the top of the top when it comes to interior design. When it comes to co-hosting, I'm not giving it that same level of respect, because it was always, hey, I'm supporting my portfolio. I have a few clients. It's just like a very friendly relationship. But because of that, I'm not giving it the professional touch that it deserves. So that's my initial goal. I want to really redo the entire backend system. It's not only just the guest experience we do a pretty good job at in terms of the guest side of it, it's the owner experience where I'm really focused on. Like, how can I give the same 5-star experience to the owners that are with me, not just the guests?
Yeah, I think that's huge. And you still do this in the traditional co-hosting to where you don't do trust accounting. The money still flows to them. You get paid through like the Airbnb. Is that how you're still running these properties?
That is how it's been since running. And, it's such an interesting conversation because you talk about like a lot of these property managers who have an eventual goal to exit and then be able to do that. And then maybe the co-hosting model sometimes may not work for that. When we started this co-hosting business, is so intertwined with everything that we do with our own portfolio. So it's not a sellable business today.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for me to say if I want to sell it in 3 years, it'll be very difficult. It's got completely tied in. So if the intention is let's build a business to sell it, I would have to basically start from scratch in terms of all the back end, the contracts, so on and so forth. But I don't think that's the mindset for me right now. I don't think I'm looking at this as to make this a sellable business. We're going to continue to grow our portfolio. We're going to continue to support people, owners that have been with us, and just trying to establish that boutique co-hosting platform. What I see happens is generally investors, they end up buying properties in multiple locations. It's very easy to scale a co-hosting model or property management model in one location. There's just economies of scale. You have your team, you have cleaners. Our portfolio is completely spread out. Not only just the portfolio that we own, but the portfolio of people that we manage for. And everything from having a single property in Maine to having a single property in Marco Island, having a single property in Iowa, single property in Branson. And so that's where I'm looking to differentiate myself, is that come to me, I'm your person to hire if you want. If you have a diverse portfolio and you don't want 5 different property managers to work with and manage with in different locations, but work with a single person for portfolio across different properties. So I look at it more than just pure co-hosting and property management. I'm really wanting to be the partner for them. Like, when are you buying something new, a new property is coming along, I'm going to help them underwrite it. I'm going to help them run the risk with Ishita's support. We're going to help them design, operate, renovate, all of those things, and hopefully also manage it on the back end. And we're kind of building well together. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
And kind of set it up in a way that I'm the person if you have a diverse portfolio in multiple locations. So.
I think that's great. I mean, because there isn't a lot of people out there that can do that, because you with the traditional method, if you're doing trust accounting, you kind of need to do it in the state you're in, if you have to have a broker's license there or whatever you have going on. Right. And that's one of the great things about the co-hosting model, is that you can be in multiple states and many different locations and do what you're doing, and everything does. And I'll be honest, my owners, one of the things they love is they love seeing deposits go into the bank all month long instead of waiting till the end of the month to find out how much money they made. I'm sure you have some of the owners that are the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just a lot more cleaner in terms of, from an owner experience perspective, they have a lot more control. As a co-host, once you start realizing is that, there's probably a smarter way to do it that is like managing your cash flow, because you don't get those deposits as you're getting those reservations, but sometimes you're paying those cleaning fees, you're paying all the handyman, you're paying all those things out of your operating accounts, if you will, and then you're invoicing it towards the end of the month. So it's been okay with 10 properties, 20 properties, but now you have that so many properties that really starts stacking up. So that's an area that I'm trying to improvise. Like, how do I manage my cash flow? And then how do I set it up so that I can still have some of these recurring expenses like cleaning fees be either coming to me directly when the reservations happen, or how do I get some of these maintenance expenses being charged directly to the owners rather than having to go through me every single time. So there is a sweet spot somewhere in there between what's easy for bookkeeping, accounting from an owner's perspective as a co-host, as well as not having to essentially fund 50, 60, $70,000 worth of expenses every month and wait for it to get paid back. So
yeah, I mean, when my first year co-hosting multiple properties going to spring break, and I think I paid out like $10,000 in cleaning fees, and I think this was in March of 24, and I'm like, oh boy, like my account really drained, that first month, and I'm like, okay, well, Airbnb has it to where you can send the cleaning fee directly to you or a certain dollar amount, and actually with the new Airbnb structure, I did have it to where the cleaning fee was coming directly to me, but because the cleaning fee now has that 15% upcharge, I don't do that anymore. But if my cleaning fee is $500, I take $500 directly from that booking to come to me to cover my cleaning expenses for the month. And that helps me prevent my account from getting drained. But I don't take my 20% or whatever my percentage is throughout the month. I get that at the end of the month. So I do get the cleaning fee up front just so I can cover my cleaners and I'm not draining my bank account.
Oh, that's interesting. So you don't take a commission from Airbnb, but you just get the cleaning fee. So it's paying for that, and then commissions come in at the end. That's a good way to look at it too.
Yep. So that's kind of how we structured it, and it works. It works for us. Everybody. It's one of the cool things about the space. Everybody's got a different structure, and whatever works for you and your owners and how you want to structure it. As long as you can flip the bill, for those cleaning fees that come in, whatever it is. So, but I do like the way you do things as well.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I think, the future of co-hosting is, I look at it as like, as things are getting more and more competitive, everyone who is going to be able to spend that extra time, not just set it and forget it, will probably survive. And that's where the goal is. And this is probably, the area where I think AI is really starting to boom up. Like, how can I start introducing more and more AI into the workflow? Because that is the time I can allocate towards making and providing a better product. That is the time I can allocate towards providing better service. And so that's been a lot of our focus now in going into 2026 as well.
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned HostBuddy AI. What is your AI tech stack today? What are some of your favorite AI tools that some of us may not know about?
I'm a very beginner, I'll admit. I am just dabbling with it. To be very honest, when I feel like somehow overwhelmed when you look at the amount of tools out there to do with so many different things you can do. And I sometimes get caught in that rabbit hole of like, okay, let's go try and use this tool. Let's go try and use that tool. Or this one does really good, just one portion of it. And I have a complex mind. My brain works really complex as an engineer. So I have to remind myself that I have a team that is not going to appreciate me bringing 10 different tools to them to do 10 different things. And at the end of the day, what I think I'm realizing more and more is not having the best tool out there to do a certain task, but it's a tool that team will actually end up using that is going to really make the difference. There might be maybe Grok is better at analyzing, or maybe, Claude is better at doing certain things, but setting different tools up for doing different tasks, it's challenging when you're trying to deploy it and train people in different teams. So the reason I mentioned that, the context of it is that I'm trying to set everything up in ChatGPT as much as practically possible. So, and then the idea is essentially AI first. So on the overall tech stack, all our guest communication does go through HostBuddy AI, which is tied with Notion, which is where we keep all the property information. So it pulls from there, and it it uses that along with a bunch of master prompts that I'm continuously updating and HostBuddy AI. So it responds the way we want to respond, along with property specific adjustments. But we are creating GPTs for very specific tasks. For example, responding to reviews. We have a GPT in there, so the team can go in, find that GPT, paste in the chat history, and it will give you a response based off of the Airbnb policy for responding to reviews. If you're trying to, work with Airbnb to get a review off, there's a GPT for that. So my job becomes reviewing these GPTs. My operations manager I tell them, we need a GPT for this. My operations manager actually creates this GPT. I test it, maybe make some tweaks, and then she goes in and deploys it to the team.
Wow.
So we, I think, have probably 30 plus GPTs for various tasks. And then that goes back to our workflow. And my only agenda or my request for the whole team, and it's one of our 2026 goals, is that every workflow needs to have at least 50% of it needs to be done by some kind of automation, some kind of an AI. So don't come to me with a question if you have not run it by ChatGPT first and you have come up with at least some kind of a conclusion to it of what's possible. Bring that to me and then I can help you get to that final percent.
Wow. I mean, I'm not even scratching the surface compared to where you are with AI, and it's something that I'm trying to teach and learn and figure out myself as we go. But what you're using it for, just creating those different GPTs. I mean, that's next level than most of us out here. So I think it's impressive. So.
Well, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but I feel like I'm barely even scratching the surface, because I feel like there's, once you start getting into this, you start following people who are really maximizing AI, and you feel like I'm just literally just learning the ABCs barely, if at all.
Yes, many of us are still using ChatGPT like Google. So, that's, there's a lot out there. And I've kind of integrated a little bit more beyond that to get more out of it than what I have. But it's the way of the future in this business and many businesses. And if you're not embracing it, you're going to be left behind, or you're going to make your job a lot harder down the road when everybody else is, sitting on a beach while AI is taking care of their business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my goal is to be feeding enough information to it that I could probably, they talk about making like an AI clone that could answer a lot of your things and feed it enough information that can happen. I don't have a lot of podcasts. I don't have a lot of content out there for me to be able to do that today. But that is subconsciously what I'm trying to do, is like everything that I know, I'm trying to feed it through and just creating a database. We use something called Motion AI. It's for our project management, and this across both design side and then this side. And my only request for the team members is make sure that Motion AI note taker comes into all these meetings and just recording.
Yeah.
And it's not only about having, something for you to go back. The intention behind is that we can take all of these conversations and feed it in eventually to create your own very specific to your business LLM that you can use and deploy into your business. So, but if you guys have not looked at Motion AI, it's an amazing tool for your daily calendar, Gmail management. That's what we use across the team. And it's taken a lot of our headache away in terms of having to reschedule projects, reschedule calendar invites, something as simple as that.
Wow. That's awesome, man. It's it's fun to watch. You guys have, built an amazing business over the last couple of years. And you said at the beginning that, your goal was in engineering to get yourself to be an astronaut. At this rate, you might be able to buy your own rocket ship and fly yourself to the moon down the road. So,
well, I don't know. I think for me, it becomes more about the journey. I really enjoying the journey, and I'm trying to maximize it. I think the phase of life I'm in right now is that you get to a point where you start really questioning and wondering. There's always going to be that next target. There's always going to be that next goal to run after. How do I enjoy that experience of getting to that goal rather than just running behind it too? So I'm just very mindful of that as we are taking on new projects and we are taking on new things. And that's where I am in my own personal journey. Maybe it's I'm coming up with my 40th year. So that is perhaps where my mind space is, like, where do I want to spend the time?
Yeah. I will say one of the coolest things, and I will tell everyone out there, like when we were in the co-hosting retreat down in Smith Lake, Alabama, like you had your 3 screens going on, you were working hard, but then as soon as it was time to play, you were ready to play, right? You're truly enjoying life. You're enjoying your time doing this. So it's one thing to say, okay, I'm putting in 80, 100-hour weeks, which I know you do, because there are weeks that you're doing that kind of work. But then you spend a week in Aspen and go to New Year's Eve somewhere else and come up to Montana, and you're really enjoying life. And I think that's the most important part of this, is that not only you're getting to do this together, you and Ishita to do it together, but I can thoroughly see that you guys are really enjoying it and having a great time with it.
I appreciate you saying that, Joe. And I think, I take that with a lot of gratitude. And also sometimes we forget the opportunity that have been given to us, right? So I remember being stuck in, even though I enjoyed engineering, I remember being stuck in a cubicle with no windows, having to work 9 to 5. And I want to take a trip here and there, and I couldn't because I had 15 vacation days that I have to use, which maybe I used it to go visit my family back in India, and that used up all of it.
Yeah.
So having that time freedom now, or maybe location freedom even, I value that a lot. And that's why, like, every day there are always challenges, and you're trying to run that many properties and projects. There's always going to be some fire happening somewhere. There's always going to be some relationship getting burned somewhere. Someone's going to be mad somewhere. It's just trying to be intentional about, okay, I'm here today. How can I maximize now what I'm doing and enjoy the process along the way? And I get to do it with Ishita, and I get to do it with friends, and get to do it with people that I enjoy spending time with. So I'm very grateful for that. So
yeah, it's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. Any parting words to any aspiring short-term rental owners or entrepreneurs out there?
I think if people were just getting started, for me, what I would always say is just sometimes you just have to get into the game. That first step is always very hard, and find the right group to get into. That will just accelerate your growth. So if it's a new short-term rental, it's first time you are in, find the group that are focused on that. If you're trying to scale your STR operations, find the right mastermind, and that would really help accelerate, because that's really what has helped us with our hotel set of businesses, and even now with our STR portfolio, is finding the right group to hang out in.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. We potentially have 3 scheduled trips together this year. Obviously, I'll get to see you at the Savvy Summit, hopefully in Oklahoma at the ranch in April, and then potentially again out in Coachella and in California at the
looking forward to all of them.
So really excited to continue to grow our relationship. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks.
Sounds good, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thanks again. And thank you everyone for joining me this week on the Short Term Rental Playmaker, and I'll see you next week.
Welcome to the Short Term Rental Playmaker podcast, where we break down what it really takes to win in short-term rentals in today's market. From insider tips and emerging trends to real conversations with top playmakers in the space, this show gives you the tools, strategies, and mindset to build and scale a successful short-term rental business. Now, here's your host, Joe Roney.
Today's episode is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents, the short-term rental real estate experts helping investors find profitable vacation rental properties nationwide. If you're serious about scaling your STR portfolio, Savvy STR Agents should be your first call.